Welcome to this interview at FS Expo 2025 here in Providence, Rhode Island. I have Winfried with me here from Aerosoft. Winfried, thank you very much for your time. But before we get started, I just want to say that this video is brought to us by Meridian GMT. Winfried, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate, these shows are always very busy for you and the team at Aerosoft. Our viewers may have heard Aerosoft, but might not know who you are. So why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and where it all started for you?
First, I would like to say thank you, Nikki, for sponsoring the video. And I'm the CEO of Aerosoft since 33 years. So I'm the oldest guy in flight simulation, the dinosaur, whatever you think. I know microwings conferences. Some of you might remember in the 90s.
Yeah.
And yes, and Aerosoft was a flight sim company till the early 2000s, and now is a flight sim and gaming company and hardware company, mainly publishing. So we are not a developer normally.
So we'll talk about kind of the split that Aerosoft has now with flight simulation and everything else that you do. But when did it all start for Aerosoft? Obviously, it was a little while ago now. How did it become what it is today?
Oh, that's interesting, because a friend of mine, a school classmate, founded Aerosoft in 1989 as a private company. He was studying, and at the same time he was learning for his private pilot license. And he thought, oh, it's shitty with the theoretical things and so on. So we need some software to train the schooling things. So a friend of him, or he found somebody who developed together with him a PPL trainer. And then in 1990, he started to sell it. Very small, mail order, no internet at that time.
Yeah.
And and then he thought, okay, it's better to found a limited. And he asked another classmate to join the company. He was a director of the trade show department of at that time, big German computer company. So they wanted to start. At the same time, with the same person from the computer company, I decided to start a marketing agency. And as we all three were classmates, they said, okay, come into Aerosoft, then it's easier. We have 3 people, so we have always a majority. It makes things easier. So that was the way I found into Aerosoft. And from the beginning, I was more or less responsible for the financial side, later for marketing and sales. And then in the 90s, Aerosoft was really a flight sim company with professional parts, flight student training software, training devices, hardware, and so on. But on the other hand, we always had a hobbyist side. Our first add-on for Flight Simulator 4 was released early in 92. Our first hardware for flight simulation was on the market, released at the end of 92.
Right.
And so in the 90s, we had a split between hobbyist and professional things. By the end of the 90s, we had a Cessna 172. I've never flown in it. It was located in Mallorca Island because the original founders thought, oh, it's good to have an aircraft on Mallorca to offer it to pilots in winter to fly. Okay, but in summer it costs a lot of money and in winter also. And so, yeah, I was never there. And then in 2000, we decided with a majority of the owners to stop professional flight simulation, because in Europe it's totally different to the American things. In Europe you have 16, 17 countries. Every country has its own rules, its own question catalog, and so on. If you do something, you need a certification in every country, and the number of pilots is about 10 to 15% of the number of pilots in the United States. So we decided, no, it's not worth to do that. So we stopped the professional part. And then the founder, the first founder, stepped out and said, no, I want to do the professional part. And I said, okay, do it. And we do concentrate on the hobbyist part, on the gaming side. And then 2002 or 3, Microsoft came to us asking, hey, we are doing a train simulator. Wouldn't it be a good idea to do add-ons, DLC for the train simulator? You have done hundreds of add-ons for flight simulator, so why not train simulator? So that was a first step outside flight simulation into other areas. And then shortly after that, we had our first standalone subway simulator. And then we had bus simulators in New York, was our first bus simulator in New York. And so we stepped more and more into the simulation side, into the gaming side, beside flight simulation.
And I feel like there's a lot of crossover now with certain platforms. You know, we see lots of people that use flight simulation might do racing or train simulation, or even different platforms within it. Do you see a world where lots of these simulation platforms, whether it's bus or truck sim, have an integration world?
It is possible. I talked with several people, but I'm not sure if that's a good idea. What we have seen is that there is not a very big overlapping between flight simulation, for example, and truck or train and so on simulations, sometimes with people are playing that, but they are not fan of it.
Yeah.
So they are not enthusiasts. They are enthusiasts in flight simulation, or they are enthusiasts in truck simulation and they have played the flight simulator, but it's not their main interest. So I believe at the moment it is better to have separate things. Okay, you can combine bus and truck simulation, for example, because that's very close together. Or bus simulation, if we're talking about city bus, and underground or tram simulation. That's public traffic. That's something people would like to do together.
Yeah. So let's stick back with flight simulation then. You've had a very busy few years. Obviously, the news of Microsoft 2020, 2024. You partnered with a lot more people, to publish their other products. How have you seen, new developers coming online since the new platform? Have you, does it feel as if it's 10 times bigger than it was 10 years ago?
If we are talking about the number of developers, the number of developing companies or persons, is it really bigger? No. But we have more companies in, let's say, with Flight Simulator X or Flight Simulator 2004. Easily one person could do an airport. One or two persons easily could do an airliner, not an aircraft, an airliner. So we had a lot of teams or individual people, not companies, doing add-ons, doing DLC and so on. With Microsoft 2020, that was more or less impossible. If you want to do an airliner, you need good 3D people, you need people for sound, for the flight dynamics and programmers, and not only one, you need more. So you need a team of 5, 6, 7 people to do an airliner, and that's typically a company. The same is with scenery. If you do a small airport, it's still possible for one person. If you want to do a big airport in a reasonable time, you need 2, 3, 4 people.
Yeah.
So that's why we see now much more companies in flight simulation. But in total, I think perhaps it doubled, but not more.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you're primarily a publisher now, and you've moved away from creating your own products, well, bar a few. How have you found that within your team? Have you moved people to different focuses? Do you have things in the pipeline that you are looking to build yourself and then publish, or are you really moving away from making your own products again?
In general, Aerosoft was always a publisher. People didn't recognize it, even in the 90s. Much more than 50% of our products were produced by external teams. So we were always a company, a typical publishing company with a small development department. And if we have an idea for a product, then we go to our partners. No, we look which partner would be the best for that product, and then we try to work with them.
Yeah. And how do you get a sense of what the community might go for next when you're looking at creating a new product in partnership with someone else?
Roulette? It is difficult. You never know exactly what the community wants. We know, okay, they like big airliners, but there are only 2 handful of airliners worldwide. So airports, much more difficult. Tools, okay, sometimes you have an idea for a tool, but nobody likes it. Sometimes you have an idea and everybody likes it. So
it does feel like you're playing roulette.
Yeah, it is difficult. It is difficult. Especially, it's the same with hardware and so on. You have an idea for hardware. You could see it with Honeycomb. They came out in 20 with the first yoke since Cytec came out in 2005. So 15 years. But since 20, we have
so many now.
It exploded.
Yeah.
We have a yoke from Trustmaster. We have a yoke from Wing. We have a yoke from Turtle Beach. Who else? Nikki's perhaps coming with a yoke, and I'm sure I have forgotten.
Moser,
Moser,
the force feedback stuff.
Yeah. So, okay, the high end, we always had this high end things, but in the low end, we had only flight. It was Cytec and CH.
Yeah.
And that for 20 years. So they have made an overload of money because they had no competition. And then the guys, and I really say the guys which had a clever idea and had spent money to do something new, and then all the other guys said, oh, that's good, that works, let's do the same. But if 3, 4 companies doing the same, nobody makes money. And that's dangerous for the community, because if nobody makes money, they will step out sooner or later. So perhaps Turtle Beach will, in 2, 3 years, say, was not a good value for money, so let's do headphones again.
Yeah.
And no, I think it's not so good for flight simulation.
So let's go back to some of your products then. Frankfurt, It looks incredible.
Thank you.
How did you know, what's the kind of the development journey from that? Obviously, are you working with a partner to develop the airport, and what's some of the processes that you have to do now rather than the 15, 20 years ago, because the standards are very different, and that competitive nature is so different.
Yeah, the opportunities are totally different. 10 years, even 10 years ago, we were thinking, FSX, great scenery. XPlane 11, even better scenery, that's it, and so on. And then with Microsoft 2020, we had a complete new world, but also a complete new level. And 24 is even higher. So, yeah, it's sometimes difficult decisions, especially on the airport side, because there are so many airports, and people in the US are not so interested in a smaller international airport in Germany or in Europe. Perhaps they will buy Frankfurt, or they will buy Heathrow and Amsterdam and Paris, but not more. So you have a limited market, which is especially on airports regional. But you have most of the times more than one team doing the airport. And that makes it difficult. And of course, the time you need to do an airport like Frankfurt or Heathrow is 3-4 times more than it was with FSX. So financially, it's difficult to think about that. That's why many companies are using people from Indonesia or South America or whatever, where the wages are pretty low. So you can get 3 people for the price of 1 in the US or in Central Europe.
And then, obviously the standards of, these competing sceneries are a lot higher now. Have you ever had had to go back to your developer and say, this isn't quite up to the Aerosoft standard, we're not prepared to let this go to market yet?
It depends. So if we are only publishing, then we only talk about the retail price, for example. If somebody has an airport which is not so good and is asking for $25 or $30, we would recommend to say, for that airport, it's better to ask $15. But we as a publisher, in most of the times, then we are only the shop. And even if we are as a publisher, then we would say, okay, $19.99, not more. And if we cannot give it to other shops for a higher price, that makes trouble. And with our own airport, we have still more or less a team doing airports. The people are external people, but contractors around Joe Allen Sund. And he's really good, and it was a really good decision from him to say, okay, I would like to work with a bigger team, so he can he can do consultant to the developers, and he is a quality control and also the main brain behind the airport, but he hasn't to do everything by himself.
Yeah.
So, but even then, it is a long discussion, which airport shall we do? It is first a market matter, so which airport will sell well, and then a matter, can we get the information we need? Do we have contact to the airport authorities, like Frankfurt? Do we have good contact to people working on that airport, or other things?
Yeah. Listen, before I ask you about anything that flies from Aerosoft, let's just take a little look at one of our sponsors to make FS Expo and FS Elite happen.
On Air. Just want to fly or go freelance? On Air is an airline management tool just for you. You can start with a 7-day free trial and you can learn more about it at the end of the video.
Welcome back. I'm still here with Winfried from Aerosoft. Winfried, let's talk about the A330.
Yes.
So a rocky start. How do you feel like it's going from your point of view? And would you like to speak about some of the journey that it's been on?
Yeah, A330 was a very, very difficult thing because in the process of development, the team made the wrong decision to try to use as much of the old P3D code as possible. And I think we would have stopped the project in early 23 or at the end of 22. But at that time, there was a big program from the government sponsoring into the game industry. And we are one of the founders of the game association in Germany. So I thought, okay, if the government spends money, we can ask for a project. And then we said, okay, we do flight sim now A330 Neo as a new product. Problem was if it was started before, we would have problems. So that was the reason why I said, and at that time I thought it would be perhaps a few months only, first finish the CO and then start with a Neo. That's why the CO was released with old systems, old code, because it's all based on the P3D, or not all, but the most of it. And the Neo comes with a complete new FMC, new autopilot and so on, which is code which is originally for the new flight simulator. And that was the reason why we have released it without a big marketing effort or whatever. I said, no, we have to release it to show this is the old product. It has nothing to do with a new thing we are getting money for, to have a clear cut between it. And I expect after the release of the A330 Neo, then we are free to put the code into other products. So then we can say, okay, let's take the code, the new one, into the CO, but not before.
And, released, had mixed reviews. Is that what you expected?
I expected that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so what's next for that project?
The Neo.
And what's the timeline?
Oh, we will show it here, and the visitors can have a look how it flies and so on. The timeline is to have it out before winter. So
This year?
This year, yes, of course.
Amazing. And then, looking at the, all of that new code that you'd made for the new aircraft, are you looking to backdate that to the CEO fairly quickly, or?
That's a good question. If you ask a developer, they always say, yes, it's not a problem. It will take a few weeks and then we have it. After 30 years in business, I would say it could take 3 weeks, it could take 3 months, it could be 8 months, whatever. Yes, we will try it to put it into. And but the next project, which is not totally secret because it is already announced on the German government side, because it's also part of this sponsoring thing, is a A330, 40.
A340 300?
40.
600?
Uh,
Or just A340 for now?
for now, it's A340.
Okay.
Perhaps both.
Perhaps. Any sort of timeline, do you think, for that?
Yes. We hope to have it out before the end of the year.
It's very soon.
Yes, but it was parallel work, and the project ends officially in the mid of this year, so it is already ended. So we have to release it, and yeah, it was also our plan to do that.
Well, that's really exciting. From a mixed review of the A330 CEO to 3 new aircraft coming before some in the near months, not even years. That's very exciting.
Yes, but I'm quite positive.
Thinking about the difference between different platforms, and obviously we've spoke heavily about Microsoft Flight Simulator for now, but I'm an XPlane user first and foremost. Do you see the XPlane community or customer base has grown a little bit because there's more simmers just in the community, or because you're still making products for XPlane, and you've got a couple coming down the line, I believe. So where do you see the XPlane community fitting within trying to compete with the massive Microsoft Flight Simulator?
I think XPlane and Microsoft Flight Simulator are different concepts, different products. So Microsoft Flight Simulator is clearly a gaming product. Microsoft is always, Jörg is always saying it's a gaming product. He's part of the gaming industry and so on. And XPlane is much more a professional product. It is used by many flight schools. It has certifications in Europe, in Southern America, in America, and so on. So it is a different level. Okay, the visual is not as good as Microsoft, but for training, that's not so necessary. And I know XPlane is working hard to improve the scenery, so that's the good. The gap will be smaller in future. On the other hand, the big bang in 2019, 2020, when Microsoft announced the simulator, and the big media interest, and everybody was talking about, even people which has never played a flight simulator, even developers of games, farming, whatever, truck came to me and said, hey, how do they get a scenery quality worldwide in that with a normal gaming PC? So that was really something in the gaming community which was, oh, this is new. I don't know how they done it. And that was also good for XPlane. So Microsoft sold a lot of copies, brought many new people into flight simulation, and some of them felt after a certain time, I like more realism in flying and so on. I would like to look into XPlane. So XPlane has also had some positive things. They lost, of course, a lot of customers and also some developers. But on the other hand, they found new customers from the new customers in all the Microsoft flight simulator.
Yeah. And so you are still actively looking for XPlane titles to publish. Where do you see, the next few products for XPlane being for you?
To be honest, I have no idea. You have to ask our product manager for XPlane, because all these external products are not on my desk normally, because that's a standard. There's a developer, we are looking, or he come to us, or we asking them, and then we look into the product. If the product is good, and if we are thinking, okay, that's fine, then we take the product. And we have a couple of developers which are working since 10 years with us, so we take every product from them.
Yeah.
And if it is an XPlane product, for example, Just Flight has products for Microsoft and for XPlane, but we take every product.
And then on the flip side of that, your latest product, Dusseldorf, for Microsoft Flight Simulator. How has that been well received? And sort of, was that on the cards to make Dusseldorf, because it's fairly local, I imagine, to you? Was that always on the cards to do Dusseldorf for 2020 and 2024?
Dusseldorf was pretty special, because Dusseldorf was always done by Simwings, or in former times German airports team, and then Simwings. And at a certain time, I think a little bit more than 1 year ago, Simwings said we have no time for Dusseldorf. And then we said, okay, Dusseldorf is the nearest international airport from our office, so we don't want it to leave that airport unattended. So we decided, okay, we take all the data, all the already finished parts from Simwings, and then Joe Allen has, with his team, has finished it.
Yeah.
And yeah, we wanted to create a surprise to release it, because people were not expecting an Düsseldorf airport from us. Yeah, perhaps from Simwings, but not from us. So, and we said, okay, that's a surprise to the community.
Yeah. And so think about where you are based. You've got quite an interesting location for your office, and you invite people to sort of that area each year. Tell us a little bit about the Aerosoft. Would you call it a show?
It is a flight sim conference.
Yeah.
Yes, it started in early 2000s, and it was interesting. For our first flight sim conference, it was in the terminal, not in the terminal, in the area behind the terminal, so the gate area of the airport. At that time, that was allowed still, and
this is at Paderborn.
Paderborn, yeah. The boss of the airport was a friend of mine, and he said, "Okay, we need one gate for our flights. In winter, there are not so many flights, and the rest you can use. But I will try to put all the airliners, if they come, in front of the glass directly." So, and that was a very nice one, because Bruce Williams, he was a product owner of Microsoft Flight Simulator at that time, came over to present Microsoft Flight Simulator 2004. And that was a really big bang, because we had, for the first time, the head of flight simulation for Microsoft in Germany. And then we had every year a show in Paderborn. It became more and more difficult because of the regulations, 9/11 and so on. Everything was more difficult. Then we decided to, and we had a lot of complaints from southern Germany, Austria, Switzerland. Hey, Paderborn is too far north. can you do something in the south? So we said, okay, let's go to Munich. The beer is better there. And normally the weather also. Do it in the German museum, in the flight department. And so then we had 1 year Munich, 1 year Paderborn. And then Munich had a big construction work, so they stopped. And at the same time, Paderborn had also more and more regulations to do that. So we stopped it and partnered it with the Aero trade show, which is the biggest general aviation trade show in Europe. Yeah, and because of Corona, it disappeared a little bit. And now we are trying to get it back because we were approached from the director of the airport. Hey, can you do your show? And I said, yes, we can do it, but we don't have a room. And we had a fire department area. And yeah, he really said, no, that's not possible because of regulations and so on. But if you do it in November, you can get a complete terminal of the airport. I said, okay, terminal is good, because everybody can directly drive to the terminal, open the door, put all the stuff in, and so on. So last year we started with this conference, and this year at the 15th, I think, of November, the next one will be there. And it's really directly in the terminal. You have the counters behind your stand, and this year we will try to have the monitors above the counters where normally you can see the flight to Frankfurt or to whatever, to have on that the name of the company, which is below it.
That's very unique.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that sounds really interesting. And if you want to, go and check out some more of the Aerosoft, up and coming products, and by then we should probably see, quite a few more Airbuses from you, sort of nearer that time as well.
Of course.
You can head to Paderborn in November, you say? In
November, yes.
Well, thanks very much for Winfried. I really appreciate your time this weekend, and it's really great to get to know you a little bit better, as well as just Aerosoft itself. But for now, keep it FS Elite for anything at FS Expo 2025. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I have also to say thank you, and of course hope to see you in Paderborn.
Yeah.
Ask Greg. He knows that it is a very nice event.
Yeah, it's a little bit closer to home than Providence as well, so that's good.
Yeah.
What if every flight you did had purpose? Every takeoff counts for something. That's exactly what On Air does. It's an airline management tool that gives you the power to fly exactly as you want to, and you'll be able to join a community of thousands. Let the AI take over when you're not flying, and build up your own schedule and database to create your own airline management experience. You can start with On Air right now today and get a 7-day free trial and enjoy this incredible experience. Check it out with the link in the description down below.
Thanks for watching. If you want more of our coverage of Flight Sim Expo 2025, click on these videos.